Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Onepeg. I just want to take a quick moment before I get into the video to thank all of you for supporting me over the years. Today, as of now, February 1st, is my 6th year as a content creator. I started my streaming and YouTube journey, if you will, on February 1st of 2018 and was able to become full-time a little over a year after that. So it's because of all of you that I'm able to do this job, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so incredibly much for supporting me and allowing me to do this job to support myself and my family. You guys are amazing. Anyway, I want to talk about the Warlock. With this patch that they put into the game, there's a whole lot of new Warlock tech. Some of it is bugged. It works right now, but it shouldn't. Other things are weird and mechanically don't actually make sense. I'm going to try and forward this list of things that I've got for all of you off to SDF with just giant question marks to be like, is this intentional? Because there are some really weird things. So we're going to start by getting into it here just to give you an idea of what it is that we're looking at. Here we are on the character pane, character screen. And I'm going to do a separate video with overall patch impressions on certain bits and pieces and bits and bobs of this. But I wanted to share a few different things. So the first is there's two new spells, perks, whatever, that we've seen. The first is this demon form ability, and the second is this ability, spell predation. So spell predation, the way that it works is it's cast on another person. So you cast your spell on your target. If the target is an enemy that has buffs or has buffs on them or casts buffs on themselves, cleric, bard, wizard, casting haste or whatever, ignite, those types of things. Anything that would be on your bar as a blue icon, but not a skill. So second wind from a fighter or adrenaline rush, those things are not things that will count for this. But magical buffs that get applied or song buffs, whatever, that get applied, those things can be removed if they get hit by this by up to 3 at a time. For each one, it says that you gain 1 darkness shard. Now, the darkness shards are the same as how Soul Collector works. Soul Collector says you gain a darkness shard for everything that you kill when you get the final blow on it. So this is you or your Hydra, for instance. That gives you a 10% boost in dark magical damage as a bonus. Now, this is true regardless of whether it's from Soul Collector or Spell Predation. However, they do not stack, so you can't get 20 of them. Soul Collector was changed. Instead of it giving you 6 like it used to before the patch today, now only gives 10. My recommendation would be you would either take Spell Predation or you would take Soul Collector, not both. The reason why this is so important is because of Blood Pact, otherwise known as Demon Form, whatever it is that you want to refer to it as. I just keep calling it Demon Form, but Blood Pact is the technical name of it. This says that it assimilates the demon for 0 seconds. The reason why it says 0 seconds is because it's an infinite duration. And there's language here that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we'll get to that in a minute. Gaining 50 health, 50 armor, and 50 magic resist. Your entire body is covered in abyssal flame. So you lose 1.5% of your health per second and deal 2 magical damage per second. Once activated, the effect cannot be stopped until the contract is complete. The magical damage does scale with spell damage on gear, and it does scale with the amount of will or magical power bonus that you have. Additionally, by consuming darkness shards, you gain +1 all for each darkness shard consumed. When you become a demon, your skills change to demon-only skills. Left click is barehanded, perform up to 4 combo attacks using both hands, and right click fires a bolt of darkness. Notice, though, they don't make mention of the third skill. The third skill being Exploitation Strike. Deal an additional 4 magical damage to all enemies you hit with a physical attack within 4 seconds and heals the caster by 5% of the target's maximum health. Now, I want to be very clear about that tooltip. It says the target's maximum health, not your maximum health. Meaning, if you end up hitting a small HP pool enemy, like, say, a Skullbat, it's not going to heal you for hardly anything. Conversely, if you end up hitting a mini-boss or a boss with one of those swipes, it's going to heal you for near full or your entire health pool bar. 4 seconds isn't a very long amount of time. With a base gear kit, even if you have the 10 shards stacked up and give yourself +10 all, you're going to end up maybe getting 3 swings in. You really need to do some deck stacking if you're going to end up getting some more hits in than that, or add on some buff duration bonus in your gear to be able to get in some extra swings. By the way, in this case, buff duration bonus would probably play in really, really nicely. The left click ability is a set of swiping claw attacks that attack up to 4 times. The right click ability is a spamming Shadow Bolt that doesn't cost any health or mana or anything. It's free to cast. It doesn't cost a damn thing to cast at people. You can spam it, and you can cast it at full movement speed. Now, on to the buggier stuff. Remember the part where I said that the tooltip for that swipe attack, or the E usability, said something about melee hits or physical attacks? Well, for right now, it's not just physical attacks. If you notice in that clip that I just showed you where we're fighting back and forth, I popped that E ability and started spamming Shadow Bolts, and my health went up. So there's something to be said about that ability that needs to be changed. Oh, and just so that everyone is on the same page, that Demon Swipe ability, the melee hit, it gets augmented by self-buffs that you put on yourself. So things like Power of Sacrifice, things like Bloodstained Blade, for instance, that gives you a whole bunch of weapon damage before you cast Demon Form, all of that works. I would highly recommend casting and bringing along things like Bloodstained Blade to cast on yourself so that your strikes end up hitting harder. This also snapshots your physical damage reduction. So if you are somebody that decides to run Plate Lock, for instance, you would have all of the PDR associated with running full plate, let's say somewhere around 50% PDR, and then you're adding another 50 armor on top of that and 50 magic resist, making yourself incredibly, incredibly tanky. So this, combined with the plus 10 all stats, gives you damage, gives you magic resist, gives you physical damage resistance, and gives you the ability to run down your opponent, even though you at one time were wearing plate when you decided to make the switch. But there is one other piece with this that I want to talk about, especially if you are going to run the Demon Armor Plate Wearable perk. You don't even necessarily have to be wearing plate, it's just the fact that you have this on. And again, this is something that can be partially counteracted by wearing a lot of knowledge gear. So right now, I don't have an awful lot of knowledge gear on, but I could potentially run this kettle hat, giving me just a little bit more in knowledge stats. So in the perk and skills section, you can see we have Demon Armor, and instead of it costing you magic heal or making some other hokey stuff go on, now it's been changed for this patch so that spell casting speed is 50% slower. However, that comes with its own set of memorific stuff, because if we start manipulating this in a more positive way, you can start to find some very interesting tech, specifically with the meme beam, Ray of Darkness. If I put on some halfway decent, like white quality, nothing crazy, just some points of knowledge worth of gear so that I actually have the ability to use Ray of Darkness, you can start to see some pretty interesting stuff. The big benefit here and the breakpoint that you want to have is 25 knowledge. Notice that between this and all the rest of the gear, I have 25 knowledge on my stuff. The reason for this is for being able to cast Hydra and Life Drain and get a 4th tick of Life Drain off of the Hydra cast before the Hydra disappears. If you have less than 25 knowledge, you will only get 3 ticks and not 4. So it's an important breakpoint to keep in mind. Now, if we read the tooltip for Ray of Darkness, it says, a dark beam dealing 12 magical damage per second to any number of targets that the beam touches. Moving and aiming are possible while channeling. Because this is dark damage, this gets augmented by Soul Collector. For each shard that we collect, we gain 10% dark magical damage bonus, which goes on top of our base magic power bonus. So that damage bonus being applied right on the top, along with the magic staff that augments this even further. So if we do the math and we start using things like a purple staff, it starts to get very, very nice. But there is another effect that happens with the dark beam, especially if you are wearing plate. Because this slows down your casting speed by 50%, that makes channels way, way slower than they normally would be. So this means things like when you cast Hydra and then go to Life Drain yourself, it's obviously going to take a lot longer with a lot less ticks, slower ticks in between. So now you only get to heal for 4 ticks instead of 5 because the Hydra disappears before you're able to get that 5th one off. By the way, you need to have 25 knowledge in order to be able to get that 4th tick. If you have less than 25, you're only going to get 3. But with Dark Beam, it's different. See, Dark and Darker is a little bit weird when it comes to spell haste and channeled spells. If you are channeling a spell like Dark Beam, for instance, Ray of Darkness ends up lasting a shorter amount of time, much like how Life Drain ends up ticking for a faster amount. Those ticks come in quicker over the course of the period of time that Life Drain is lasting for. Same thing with things like Sanctuary for a Cleric, how those tick for significantly faster the more knowledge you have. But when it comes to Dark Beam, it works differently. See, no matter what happens, the Dark Beam, the Ray of Darkness's hits, always happen at a 0.1 second interval. So if you're using Dark Beam and casting it on a target, the more haste you have, the shorter the duration the spell actually lasts on the channel, which means that you're hitting for less damage over time than if you were to have a, say, slower cast speed. So in this case, if I fire up Ray of Darkness, the cast duration is significantly longer. Now, in addition to that, there's also the ability to use that heal swipe healing ability that you have in demon form. It has a 30-second cooldown. You could cast a Hydra and then switch to demon form and swipe the Hydra 3 times in just a very basic base kit, and that would give you about 30% of your health back. Not something too shabby to use. Some of these like little tech pieces, things, I don't think are supposed to work the way that they are actually working. It's been known for a while now that the duration of the spell for Dark Beam has been this way with the consistent tick time, but the shorter or longer duration depending on spell haste thing, that's been like this for like 3 or 4 patches now. It's something that's been well documented. I've sent to the devs a couple of different times, and it's just not something they've gotten around to. It is what it is. In the meantime, though, if you're looking at just general basic math and you start looking at this formulaically, a basic purple quality staff with a full shard buff, the 10 stacked buff, if you're going to use that on beam, it's been fixed now, by the way. It's been fixed for a few patches now where it's the full duration of the beam, not just the first tick of the beam. Means that you're hitting for approximately 57 damage per second with no other additional gear. Just 30% willpower, or sorry, 30% additional magic power bonus and a purple staff. That's it. Those are the requirements. In addition to that, you could get 11 points of additional damage between your jewelry, your hat, and your cloak, which would give you 68 damage per second, broken up into 0.1 second intervals. 6.8 damage every 10th of a second for what looks like a 15-second-ish duration on the safe side, just because you were wearing plate. Compound that with the ability to turn into a demon and start chasing people down, having high PDR, and you can start to see where this becomes a little bit more fun. Demon form overall is a little bit lackluster on the melee side. Yes, you can get some halfway decent damage by using Sacrifice on yourself as well as Bloodstained Blade, but it's not very sustainable. It's kind of bursty. Also, if you're hitting a squishier target, if you're hitting something like a wizard, not a barbarian, you're not really getting all that much health back. But you start trying to go toe-to-toe with a 250 HP barb, hitting him 3 or 4 or 5 times over the course of that 4 to 5 to 6 seconds, depending on your buff duration bonus and how fast your melee hit speed is, you could start to see about 60 to 70 health restored to yourself over the duration of those swipes, which isn't awful. That's pretty good. I just wanted to share this tech with you to give you guys a better idea. The next video I'm going to post is going to have to do with my impressions of the overall patch. Some of the stuff that I've seen kind of along the way, things that explain some of the mechanics and how some of the mobs and the environmental stuff works in the Frost Caves, and just my general impression overall on how I think it's going. As of right now, actually, the servers are being brought down thanks to SDF. He just posted that they're taking the servers down as this video is being recorded to post a fix to a very large duplication bug that was going on that had something to do with campfires. And as it turns out, now that I've had a chance to look at those actual like early access hotfix patch notes, for the purpose of this video, I will share a couple of pieces The first is the base weapon damage when transformed into demon form has been increased by 5. So the demon form claw attacks that were kind of lackluster now actually start to hit a little bit harder than they did before, which is good. That's kind of what we needed. Secondarily, the impact power of the Warlock claw attack was horrendous. It took 4 hits to pop a clay pot. The impact power on the claw attack was 1. That has been changed to 4. So now it should be 2 attacks to break open a crate, 2 attacks to break open a barrel, and 1 attack to break open a clay jar. So at least we have that. But in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind subbing the channel here, that would be amazing. Thanks, everyone. My name again is Onepeg. I appreciate all of you for coming by and checking this out. Thanks for celebrating 6 years with me. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs all this time. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.